We're not doing a workout today, something much more exciting than that. I'm joined by Phil Cavell in his business, which is Cycle Fit, to talk about a book that Phil has written called The Midlife Cyclist. Phil, before we get into the detail of the book, and thank you very much indeed for being here.
You're welcome, Dominic.
Very nice to be sitting alongside you. What's your background? Why did you get in? Why did you write this book?
So I wrote a book. I was an ex-racer, not a professional one, not a particularly good one, but I loved it and raced in every way you could possibly imagine: cyclocross, mountain bike, road, everything, as we did. And we had a business called Cycle Fit, which you're in, which looks after cyclists. So we have physiotherapists, we have bike fitters, we have a podiatrist, we have a sports physiologist. So I was daily coming into contact with people who are the best in the world at what they do in terms of working with athletes and also a whole ecosystem of clients. So it gave me a unique access to connecting the problem to the solution. And so the book really is the product of that, and also my own experience racing, and variously well and not very well. So that's how the book started.
I mean, I've read it, and it's a great book. It seems to blend very well the kind of hard science with sort of history and sociology in terms of how we came to be the human beings we are in the 21st century. So you call it the Midlife Cyclist. What is the kind of key message you're trying to get across in the book?
There's several pillars I think the book sits on. One of them is the fact that we're the first generation, the first cohort ever to consider working our bodies as hard into middle age and beyond. So this has never happened before, and it's happened very quickly. So average age, life expectancy 70, 80 years ago would be 50s and 60s, and I'm over 60 and you're mid-50s, and yet we're not thinking about so much preparing for dying, but seeing if we can elevate our bodies to Olympic levels of fitness. So we're the first generation. No one's done it before. So there's a lot that's unknown that you have to hypothecate.
And what are the key things you found out there? You've spoken to lots of renowned experts, and you have a great deal of knowledge yourself. What are the kind of key things that you've found? You want to inspire people to keep going, but you don't want them to take risks as they do that, right?
Yeah. The big thing is that working out and cycling hard at our age is almost universally a great thing for both mental and physical fitness. But I guess the book was trying to give a manifesto about how to do that in a reasoned, wise way. That's kind of what I set out to do.
You're advocating very much staying in the game or on the bike, but also advocating common sense caution around how hard you train and how hard you ride.
Yes, and that's because that really comes from the aspiration that I see men, women of our age. They're not thinking about just riding around Regent's Park or Richmond Park or in the lanes on the weekend. They're setting ambitious goals, and that means they have to elevate their bodies to quite high levels of fitness. And so that means that requires thought. You can't just, that won't happen by accident. So we're exposing ourselves to theoretical risk.
But you've used the word risk. You've also said that, and I think it's a quote that I read in the book about cycling is the best drug that the pharma industry has never invented or didn't invent. So clearly it's good for us, but there are risks. So can you just talk a bit more about the sort of the interface of the positives versus the negatives or the dangers of overexerting oneself?
Chapter 3 deals with this in some, probably too much detail, and the chapter is actually called Will I Die? And the theoretical chance of dying is manifestly very small. So let's move that aside, I think. The bigger risk is that you underperform, or in performing at the level you want, create problems further down the line. Overtraining, inflammation in the body, injury, so those are the real risks. The theoretical risk of killing yourself is very, very low.
Because we'll back off at some point before that we get to that, one would assume. You also talk a lot about rest. And I mean, of course, we know we need sleep, and in fact, I was thinking about, the Margaret Thatcher story about needing 4 hours sleep a night because as one gets older, one needs less rest. That's not true, is it?
She needed 3 or 4 hours, or she thought she needed 3 or 4 hours sleep. It turns out she needed a lot more than that. But yeah, we don't need less sleep as we get older. That's a common misconception of aging. We need the right amount of sleep, whatever that is.
The thing that I came away with from the book, and there's lots and lots of great detail in there and lots of hard evidence to support your conclusions, I came away with this idea about listening to one's body and learning to understand, learning to hear what it's telling you. That seems to me to be the kind of the key point of it all.
Yeah, but not listening to it in a way that's not evidence-based. Listening to your body, being appraised of what's actually happening to your body, and looking at the evidence about what's happening to your body and how you can take that and make your body perform at a higher level in a safe environment. That's what I was trying to do. Because there's like this work ethic that comes with cycling. You get into it, it's addictive, you love it, so you want to do more of it, and then you set ambitious goals, and the work ethic kicks in, so you just train harder. And if you don't have that much time, then you substitute how long you're training for intensity. So you're now in this kind of algorithm of intensity versus, and that's dangerous, not necessarily health-wise for people like us, but it probably won't create the right result, the result you want.
Understood. So does that feed into what you talk about overtraining syndrome as well, which is where people do get, presumably that's obsessive need to be both physically and psychologically, one's driven to get on the bike again and again and again.
And overtraining syndrome at its most extreme is an illness. It's an illness, that's a very serious illness, and takes a long time to recover from. It's not, so once you've got into overtraining syndrome, where you've got kind of systemic inflammation in your body, you're ill. But you've put yourself in that hole because you've ignored every single signpost on the way to overtraining. You've ignored every signpost. They've been there, Dominic.
Yeah.
And you've chosen to ignore them. Not you, obviously.
I've never.
Well, maybe you. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think I probably know some people who have, but I don't think I was one of them. I think another point that and I suspect a lot of people watching this will have a similar thing, is that it's that fine line between pushing and pushing too hard. It's quite, one needs to understand at what point you're doing too much, even if because the thing is, a lot of people who want to ride bikes and do want to perform well. So when are you pushing too hard and when are you not pushing hard enough?
Probably the opposite is true. That if we're training for something, an event, or we want to succeed and get better, we want our FTP to go up, we're probably doing the worst of all worlds. We're training too hard when we should be training easy, and too easy when we're training hard. So we're in this kind of grey, gloomy bit in the middle.
I get that,
yeah. Most people are in that gloomy bit, and that doesn't give you the results that you want, and it can create problems. And the older you are, theoretically, the more that grey, gloomy bit is a problem, because our bodies, they're not as elastic and as responsive as they were. You can't ignore aging. You shouldn't become a slave to it, but you can't ignore it either. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, and the point of the channel that we've created is to very much motivate people of 40 and 50 and beyond to believe that they can stay active, obviously, and that it has lots of benefits. I think it's fair to say that, well, I don't know, some of the people who watch our content may be racers, but I think a lot of them are just wanting to be inspired to either get active or stay active. So it's at the lower end. What would you say and you've talked about some of them, but can you sort of encapsulate the key watch-outs for the older or the midlife cyclist?
I think get the basics right first. So think about how much sleep do you need? So as an individual, how much sleep do you think you need a night?
7 hours.
Right, so you need 50 hours a week. Whatever else happens in your life, Dominic, you need 50 hours a week. So you do the night before, you only get 4, so you're now 3 in deficit. So that's how you need to start thinking about this. What you don't want to do is try and hack and end up at the end of the week and you're 10 or 12 in deficit.
I have done that before, definitely.
Yeah, and you're not alone. So that's the first one. Get the sleep that you need. Is it 6? Is it 8? Is it 9? Is it 7? I'm with you. I'm about 50, 52. Mm-hmm. Then work out as a person when you're at your highest productivity. Is it in the morning? Is it during the day sometime? Is it at night? And try and structure your life so your training, certainly your high intensity training, is in those moments. So, you know, if you're a morning person, don't be trying to train at 11 o'clock at night. Your body doesn't want to. The next thing is diet. You know, to eat well and properly, if you can, most of the time.
Yep. And most of us have an idea about what that means. You know, taking out the complications of ultra-processed foods and so on, but there are some things which are clearly good for you and some things which clearly aren't.
Sure. And as cyclists, when we do events and things, we tend to, you know, we are tending to sort of take on lots of sugars and caffeines and, you know, but aside from that, try and eat food that looks like food. Did it grow somewhere? You know, was it picked out of a field? All good. I mean, and the other thing is something you said, that rest is so important, not because I'm trying to make everybody into someone who's lazy, because remember that you get fit in the recovery phase. You don't get fit. We're not going to get fit in this bit. We're going to get fit when our body adapts to what we're doing. And that process of adaptation, or the supercompensation stage, happens when you're in slow wave sleep. Growth hormone is released. So you need to get to slow wave sleep, which means that everything else has to fall into place. See what I'm saying? So that golden few hours a night when you're in deep, deep sleep is when all the good stuff gets delivered to you. But if you can't get there, all that work ethic that put you on your turbo trainer at 11 o'clock at night doing a massive session is all in vain. It's all negative.
It's so interesting because there is this received wisdom. Yeah, no. Well, in your opinion, with backed up in most cases by some science. So it's not just your opinion, I think, is it? And it's very compelling in the book. The sleep thing is kind of interesting because there is this. I don't know whether, and it doesn't sound like it is based on anything other than a few apocryphal stories of ex-prime ministers and that sort of thing. But that as we get older, we need less sleep because it's. I think that is widely believed.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I heard it and believed it, and it wasn't until it's not. It's nonsense. We need the same amount of sleep.
Yeah.
Well, but, yeah. And do you know what? When you ask somebody how much sleep they need, they've always got a ready answer. Like you said, 7 hours. Everyone kind of knows.
Yes, it's true.
Isn't it?
It's very true. It's very true.
My wife needs 8.5.
Yes, my wife needs more than I do.
Yeah,
It's very interesting. I mean, the only problem being a middle-aged bloke is that your sleep gets disturbed by needing a wee from time to time, which is, we won't go into that, but that...
Go there if you want to. I've got my own stories.
No, that's a different episode. I mean, so yeah, final word, Phil. I mean, I would say that the book is worth anyone reading anyway, particularly if you're interested in higher performance or the higher end of performance, but I think it has lots of value for anyone who wants to think about or is in the game of keeping very active as they get older. Don't be cowed by one's age, I think is another one of the key messages.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say, because and now and again I hear someone come and not everyone liked the book, and nor should they, but sometimes I get some negative feedback that it's like you're trying to talk me down from having this high, lofty aspiration of winning a championship or my local. It's like, absolutely not. I want you to go and do all those things, but I want you to do it from a position of intelligence and understanding and cognizance. I don't want you to do it just kind of on hope and a mistaken belief, and you can just throw work at it. You can't. At our age, I'm older than you, but
not by much.
Well, enough. One needs to be a bit more intelligent about it.
Sure. And a question that I haven't asked you, and I think it's important to get an answer to this, is you talk about the midlife cyclist. You're 61, I'm 55. What is your view? When does one become a midlife cyclist?
I suppose 40. I mean, I'm not going to live to 122. The evidence unlikely. So I'm,
Yeah.
thanks.
You do well.
But I'm not going to get to 122. So I guess probably you're right in the sweet spot, 50, 55, but lots of people who are 40 read it because they're, you know, there's the early signs of what's happening, what's happened to you and I is happening to them. So I've had people who are 80 who read it, people who are 40 who read it, and younger, but I guess the sweet spot is kind of 40 to 60.
40 to 60, okay. Well, I think that covers a lot of the people who watch our content, which is great. I would just like to say thank you very much indeed, Phil. It's been fascinating. The book is called The Midlife Cyclist. You can find it on Amazon and lots of other places, I know that. It's a really great read, and as we've just been discussing, it isn't solely science. There's a lot of sociology, I suppose you'd call it, you know, kind
yes,
of...
anthropology.
Yeah, anthropology. How have we got here? And it's a great read. I can't recommend it highly enough. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. Nice riding with you.
Yeah, it's been really nice.
You can put the green screen and the Alps in after.
We've been all over the place,
yeah,
haven't we?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. And do like, comment, subscribe, share your thoughts. I'm sure, and in fact I know Phil will answer any questions if you have any, which you may well have many. So do share this, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. And thanks very much indeed for watching another Off Workouts episode. Thanks now. Bye.